Hello and welcome to the Brave Marketing Podcast with your host Swapna Thomas. This is the podcast for the renegades, the trailblazing leaders, and the change makers who don't just have a business, it's your calling. Those of you who want to make a difference and make money, but all on your own terms. I'm on a mission to show as many life coaches as possible how you can have more income, more impact, and infinitely more fun by being unapologetically and bravely you and breaking all the rules. I have created 5-figure months with no paid ads, a tiny list, and zero complicated sales funnels. Simplifying marketing and teaching you how to use it for good in the world is my zone of genius. With this podcast, I'm here to share weekly episodes on the soul and the strategy of marketing, mindset, money, and everything online business. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Brave Marketing Podcast. You know what? 9 is one of my two favorite numbers because I was married on the 9th of February and my daughter was also born on the 9th of April. And for the 9th episode of the Brave Marketing Podcast, we have our very first episode with a guest, and a very special guest at that. Gauri Kekre is an internationally acclaimed cake artist and a course creator with hundreds of students from all over the world who are learning the art of cake decorating through her incredible courses. She is also an amazing artist, a healer, an animal communicator, and possesses many more talents that I cannot list here. She is an evidence of what's possible when you decide that you are ready to start playing big and align your unconscious and conscious mind to your goals. From barely making $500 a month to now consistently making $5,000 months and being on track for a 6-figure year, she has come a long way. And I have been blessed to be a part of her journey, having been her coach through multiple up levels of her business. In this episode, we are talking about how Gauri fought against the patriarchal mindset and created her own destiny by building a cake empire. How creating a course model in her business brought more success and ease in her business. How she works through the conditioning of hustle and hard work and is repairing her relationship with rest and joy. The 3 biggest lessons she has learned over the years, and you're going to absolutely love number 3. Her plans for the future, which include an invention and starting her own manufacturing unit. It's a very special episode, and I'm sure you will get so many aha moments from Gauri's journey. So let's dive right into the episode. Today is the first episode of the Brave Marketing Podcast where we have a guest. So it feels like a very special episode for me. And it's also a very special guest because she was my first ever client when I was a baby life coach, and she was actually my practice client. But since then, we have worked together in many different programs, and she's currently a private coaching client. And I honestly, every time I look at her, I feel like a proud mama because in all those years, she has just grown from strength to strength. She has set and achieved some incredible goals, and she's consistently scaling and growing her business. She's a client, she's a very good friend, and personally, she's an inspiration for me because, as you will find out as you listen to this episode, she's a force of nature. She's one of those people that will, who will come onto the call, discuss something like an idea or a strategy for maybe 10-15 minutes and work out all the mindset kinks then and there on the call, and then she will run with it. So the next time I speak to her, she has already implemented it, and we just evaluate, what happened, and we figure out the next step. And it's not like she does not have fears, but she does not let those fears stop her from taking a leap. So welcome to the Brave Marketing Podcast, Gauri Kekre. I have spoken so much about you, but I still haven't introduced you properly because I want you to introduce yourself So just take away the stage and, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Swapna, for that lovely introduction. I don't think anyone could have described me better than you did just now. But to everyone who's listening to this, hi, my name is Gauri Kekre. I am a cake artist. I have been working as a cake artist since the year 2013. That's when I and Swapna we started working together. For me, it has been a wild ride since then. I have since been uh, awarded as one of the top 10 cake artists of the country. I have received several awards. I have been published in and featured in several magazines. I've been featured in a newspaper. And yeah, life has been fun. Life has been an adventure since then.
Yeah, it has definitely been an adventure just watching you have this amazing time building this business. And it's not all been, roses throughout the journey. There have been many, many thorns as well, but you have taken it all in your stride and you just keep growing and, making yourself proud, but making everyone who's in your world also very, very proud. Now, before we got on the call, I had asked you one weird fun fact about you. And I intend to ask this to all of my guests because I think that just makes, the story so much more interesting. So you said that your weird fun fact is that most of your most successful decisions have also been the most impulsive decisions. So I want to know about your most impulsive decision that also turned out to be the most successful decision for you, because I feel that will be a great starting point for your story and it will give us a very real insight into who you are.
In retrospect, when I think about it, yes, most of my most successful decisions have been impulsive. And I'd say one of the very first decision I took like that, which was very impulsive, was getting married to my then boyfriend, now husband, Shrikant. Uh, Back then, it was like, when I was in college, the path was set, the career was set, and I was studying to be a dental surgeon. I had just completed my internship, and my life path was pretty much clear in front of me that I was going to work till I was 28 or 29. Then I was going to get married, and everything was going to happen after that. But yeah, another force of nature rammed into my path, and that was Shrikant Kekre. And yes, despite all of my plans, despite all of my parents' plans, despite of everything we had decided till then, we decided that yes, we are going to get married, and I got married at 24. And yeah, it has been amazing since then.
Yeah, I love love. So I definitely completely love your story. But I also just want to, share a little bit about being a woman in India because Corey also lives in India. I live in India as well. And it's a highly patriarchal society, right? So for most women, the path still, even now in today's time, like we feel like it's evolved a lot and it's probably not as much as before, but it's still the path is study until you get married, then maybe you can do a job, but it's mostly your job is to basically look after the kids, right? Like that has to be the number one priority. So for women like us who do that but also decide to pursue something that is completely ours, that is something that we are building from scratch, right? Because I know your story. You literally have built this empire that you're running right now from scratch with very little help, and just figuring things out your own way. So tell us about the journey that you have been on, because you just mentioned that you were set to become a dental surgeon. You have your studies were on that track. And once you got married and plans sort of changed and you started making cakes, um, how did it become a real business for you? And I would love to share the journey of the past 2 years, especially because I think that's when you have really taken some decisions, which again might feel like impulsive decisions, but they have been the game changer for you. So walk us through that story.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right when you say, Sapna, that our society in India, especially, is very patriarchal. And when I got married, it was basically assumed that I would be running the home and I'd be taking care of the kids. I did not have much of financial independence. I didn't have any financial independence, to be very clear about it. And for every penny that I would spend, I had to clarify why I spent it, and being a very fiercely independent woman, it didn't sit right with me that I had to clarify every expense. I had to clarify for every rupee I spent anywhere. So even though my career had come to a standstill, but there was a burning need inside me that I have to be independent, irrespective of what society tells me, irrespective of what happens. I knew that I had to be able to make a name for myself, to be someone, not to be just a face in the crowd. You know what I mean? And I used to wonder if there was anything that I could do while I was at home, while taking care of my kids, and yet be something that I could have fun doing and make a lot of money at. And funnily enough, it's kind of like you say in the law of attraction, when you keep asking the question and you're willing to receive, the universe will show you the signs. And one of those signs was when I started watching this show called Fabulous Cakes on TLC. And I got fascinated by the kind of cakes that were being made. It felt exciting. It felt like something that would be really fun to do. And I started researching the topic. I started watching YouTube tutorials back then. And yeah, and I started making cakes. But even back then, I didn't know that it was going to be a business. I just started it because I needed something to do while being at home. And when I started doing it, people started noticing, people started ordering. And before I even knew it, I had stumbled into my new career path.
You know what, just you just mentioned that also shows that bootstrap mentality, because I relate to that so much, because I literally learned everything I know about online business from YouTube and Google. I remember I was in the same sort of space like you. I had a small baby, I had quit my job because I was not, I did not know, I was not prepared to leave my child at daycare or anything like that. Of course, like I'm absolutely for it for those people that it works for. It didn't work for me, so I wanted to be at home. But at the same time, I had this fire of wanting to create something that was my own. I wanted to be known. I wanted to, be able to create this legacy of my identity and the work that I have put out in the world. I wanted to be someone who had made a difference in the world. So I remember those nights when I used to be feeding my daughter at night and watching YouTube tutorial at the same time, because I did not know how to build a website. I had nothing like, blog. I started as a mom blogger. You remember my journey, right? And I had no idea. And there was no one in my family or, friend circle who had any idea about all of this stuff. So I was literally learning coding on YouTube and then building my website. Now everything has become so intuitive and it's so easy. But back then, I'm talking about 10 years, 11 years ago, it was clumsy, it was cumbersome. You had to literally write HTML code to be able to put something on internet, right? So that bootstrap mentality, I think it got you to a point where you're talking about, you started getting cake orders. Um, but that's not what got you where you are right now. Like, of course, you worked really hard, and I know how hard you work. And your work ethic is always inspiring. But because I have the behind the scenes insight of your business, I know that's not what took you to where you are today. So tell me a little bit about what was going on for you when we started working together, and what were some of the things that we have worked on that helped you the most to be where you are today?
When I started working, to be very honest, there was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of opposition from family and friends who thought that I was leaving a very lucrative career in favor of making cakes, which they didn't understand because they didn't see what I was seeing. They didn't understand what I was doing. But somewhere or the other, I felt bogged down by the pressure of not knowing whether what I am doing, is it really going to be fruitful, or is it just wishful thinking on my part? And thankfully, very early on, I realized that just having a business or just having something to do is not enough. You need to have the right mindset in order to break through all of the social conditioning that has happened on you before, and to carve your own path through all of those thoughts and conditioning. And luckily, that's when, again, for me, law of attraction has been working in very mysterious ways. Luckily, that's when you switched from being a blogger, from a mommy blogger. That's how we knew each other, to be very honest, in the beginning. And luckily, at that time, you had just switched to being a coach. And something told me that, you know what, she's looking for someone as a practice client. And I just wanted to know what it is and how, like, what you can do for me. So I jumped on that first call, which was like a practice call for you. But something happened to me right within the first call itself. And within the first call, I knew that if I were to make it forward, if I thought that I would be the solo person who would take my business forward, then that would have been a huge mistake back then. Because if I would have been like that, I think my business would have folded a long time ago. I would have perhaps fallen back in the trap of all of the social drama, and I would have folded my business a long time ago. But luckily, with you, when I started working with you, a lot of my money blocks came to the front. A lot of a lot of social conditioning got rewired. Things like, I am too sensitive to start a business, or I'm too sensitive to run a business. Whereas you showed me that I can be too sensitive and I can have a successful business. Those two are not related. You know, I think that was so important for me to see back at that point, that I can be who I am and I can have a really successful business, working through all of those issues, working through all of those mind blocks, things someone had said to me when I was a kid, and understanding that none of those need apply when I was an adult. None of them need to be my real reality when I am an adult. I can choose my own reality. I think working with you has really allowed me to expand my sense of myself, I think. And that has been the key to really, really be myself and really be amazing in my chosen career.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we have worked on the most throughout, this period, and through many iterations of my business as well, because, I switched from blogging to coaching, then to content strategy, then back to coaching. So there have been multiple iterations of my business as well. But one of the things that we have really worked on for you is the identity. Your the self identity that you carry, and just rewiring that of who you really are. I don't think it's ever that we change your identity. It's mostly that I help you remember who you are, because that societal conditioning, the life experiences, all of those things sort of put these layers of what I feel like is dust. It just starts to dim our shine a little bit, and we have to polish that, and we have to remove that dust to really remember who you are at your core. And that has been something that we have worked on a lot. And one of the identity shifts for you, which is, I feel, we it's still a work in progress, and that's absolutely okay for anyone, is your relationship with hustle, right? I know that because especially in South Asian culture, hard work is worshipped. It's literally built into our DNA. We are, a product of colonization, the country, very, very young country. So that hustle mentality that you have to make it on your own, and you just have like the hard work is the only way that you can break through wherever you are stuck. So that has been something which is ingrained in our DNA. And wherever we might be, even South Asians who live outside India have that same DNA, right? So we face this um, almost this battle between our body and our mind and our spirit wanting rest and relaxation, and this voice inside our head which keeps telling us you're being lazy. You need to work harder. You need to put in more hours. And that culture is so pervasive in India, and probably all South Asian countries, that it's almost worshipped, this toxic hustle mentality. So, what has been your experience in rewiring that? And I know it's still a work in progress for you, but what do you feel about it right now?
Absolutely, Swapna. I mean, I grew up seeing my mother work like that, being hustling constantly. She would be up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and that was when she would cook for the whole family. She's a doctor, by the way. She's an anesthetist. And she'd wake up at 4 and she'd cook for the whole family. She'd cook her breakfast and then she'd be on the go throughout the day. And then she would come back in the night and she'd be doing some more. So I have seen this hustle in her right from a very, very early age. And I think somewhere I internalized it as kind of way of life, where if you want to be successful, you want to really make it for yourself, you really have to struggle hard, you have to work hard, you have to kind of have all your eggs in the basket and juggle everything at the same time. But over the period of years, I also realized that despite of her struggle financially, she was never that well off. So it kind of created a divide in my mind that I am struggling hard, but I'm always going to be stuck in this kind of loop where I never make any money. So when I started working with you and you made me see that I don't have to hustle in order to make money, yes, it was very exciting to know, but it confused me a lot to really a huge extent. I'm still confused. I won't say I'm completely out of it. I still struggle between periods of total productivity and when I'm not doing anything, I kind of feel like I'm not being productive. Even though I am resting, even though my body needs it, even though my mind needs it to function better, and consciously I know this. But somewhere inside, the little voice is always there. You know, you have dreams, you have goals, and you're not working hard enough for those.
And it's really hard to overcome that programming because, like I said, hard work is just worshipped so much in our culture. And it also leads to self sabotage whenever you're creating new neural pathways in your brain, and your brain is befuddled. It does not know why you're doing this, and it just wants to stay in that state of homeostasis where things are exactly how they have been forever. That feels like a safe space for the brain. So it just wants to bring you back to that space where you are hustling constantly. And there is this all or nothing approach, right? You are hustling 24/7, tiring your body down to your last bone, or you're just collapsing and completely paralyzed and not able to do anything in your business. So that all or nothing approach is what we have been working on breaking for you. And it has definitely, I think the progress has been so much. And I'm going to come to that, how you have worked through many of those mindset stuff to create amazing growth in your business. But what do you feel about rest right now? How do you have that conversation with yourself when your brain is telling you that you better keep working hard, or you don't deserve all of these things, or this is not going to last, so you better keep hustling? So how do you have that, and I know it does not need to be perfect. We are all human beings, and we are allowed to feel what we feel. But when you have that conversation with your brain and you rewire that for yourself, what is what is that thing that you tell yourself so that you can actually rest more?
So, Swapna, rest is something that I was completely unfamiliar with till 2 years ago. I was like, I was a huge hustler. I was filling in every moment of my life with work. I was doing the same thing over and over again. I was tired, I was bored, and I was still doing everything in the same pattern over and over again till I felt like I was going to collapse out of exhaustion. And that's when 2 years ago, when we had a private coaching session, and it was a group coaching session, and within that, you got me to start a course, an online course, which I was contemplating for a long time, to have a website, to have a code, to have a online class, and uh, it opened up a lot of new avenues for me, in that I didn't have to do the same thing again and again. I had to record a class only once, and then all I had to do was remarket it to new students. But and it has been hugely successful. It has had amazing reach. I have students from all over the world who are learning from me at this point, learning from the comfort of their homes, and learning from really the best kind of techniques that are available. But for me, it definitely created, those periods of lull in between activities. So when I wasn't on a group call and I was just resting, my mind would not let me rest. It was like, what are you going to do next? Where are you going to get your new clients from? How are you going to market this to new people? And my mind would constantly be in a state of flux rather than being in a state of resting, relaxation. So even if I was watching a web series just to wind down, my mind would be like, you loser, why are you watching? And this is what losers do, that they while away their time, and they are just surfing the net, or they're doing stuff when rather they should be focusing on working and growing the business and making sure that your family is fed. So it's your mean little inner voice that constantly berates you, constantly tells you like you shouldn't be resting. You're 40 years old, you're still too young to be resting. In our country, the retirement age technically is it's at 60, but people work till the age of 70 and well beyond. And for women, I think they hardly ever rest, because even if they have taken a sabbatical from their job, I think they're still working in the house, they're still cooking, they're still expected to take care of the grandchildren and everything. So that idea of resting and doing nothing and still having money coming in is hugely confusing. It's polarizing, to be very honest. And you've never seen it with anyone in your family, you've never seen it with anyone in your friends, and for you to be allowed to rest and make that kind of money, which is more than your relatives who are working 24/7 are making, it feels like, why am I so privileged? Why am I getting all of this? What is wrong with me?
Hmm. And that's exactly what you did, right? With the kind of courses that you were creating, you were helping others build their businesses, their own cake artistry businesses, and you have empowered and enabled so many women to make more money during the pandemic and after the pandemic by the skills that you were teaching them online from the comfort of your home, and they were watching it from the comfort of their home, and everyone was winning. And I think that is why I believe like making money is such a feminist, radically feminist act for women, right? And we should never minimize our gifts or minimize our worth because of all the conditioning we have, the patriarchal mindset that we have to face. Let's not minimize ourselves, and let's not keep our dreams small, because when we dream big, we give permission to so many more women to dream bigger. And dream bigger is like, I think that should be a motto as well, because you keep doing that. You have been making consistent 5K months for a while now. You've even had an $8,000 plus month. which is, amazing when you look at how with the ease that you're doing it. Like you mentioned, you have created these courses and you keep running them. And I also feel like you're a bit of a maverick and a rebel in your industry. And I love working with you because you're not a typical coach. You are, a cake coach in my eyes. And that's such a fascinating industry. And I feel like you keep doing, what might feel from the outside that has she gone mad? Why is she doing this right now? Because I remember you started doing online courses way before most people, and you were also pricing them higher than what most people are pricing even right now. And of course, we've had many conversations about that, and so much mindset work has gone into that, still keeps going into that. And I also remember that you took this very big decision when you were at the peak of your career. You're still at the peak of your career. I think it's been a very big peak for you. But when you were really, really popular, you stopped taking cake orders, which must have been, and I know now you've started taking some few and far between orders again, but to just stop this one income stream, how do you wrap your head around, how do you around all of this, and how do you work through your fears? Because I know all the fears come through for you, you're a human being too. But how has been working through those fears for you, and what has been the biggest shift for you?
So again, this is where the hustle mentality definitely comes in. I was taking cake orders and I was doing classes at the same time. And I realized that because my mind was so constantly full all the time with some or the other work that I had to accomplish, I had stopped having fun in my business. I had stopped creating new things in my business. I had stopped creating new courses which felt fun for me as well as my audience, right? So I had stopped doing that and I needed to find myself again, which is why I was contemplating to stop taking cake orders a long time before I actually did. I think I was contemplating it for nearly a year and a half before I actually took the step. And it took a year and a half because I was very scared. The fear ran deep. It went right to my bones. It sometimes made me feel absolutely nauseous, like I wanted to throw up, because it wasn't a very huge income stream, but it was a steady income stream, and I was saying no to work. And in my family, no one has ever said no to work. No one has ever refused to work before. And it felt scary, it felt hard to do. And the first couple of times when I said no to the orders, I was almost guilted by my clients. How can you stop taking orders now? Because we are so used to you and we cannot find your kind of work anywhere. I was guilted. I still get guilted a lot into making cake orders. But I realized that, for my own sanity and for me to be able to help more women, I needed to do this. I needed to stop taking orders so that I can focus on creating more. I can focus on being more of a rebel and teaching more women to be rebels and mavericks.
And that's exactly what you have done. You created this huge community of your students. Like you mentioned, you have students from all over the world, and in so many different courses. And I know the kind of hands on support you give them and the love and affection that you receive from them is just amazing. I asked you one more thing, which was, what's the bravest thing that you have ever done? And you replied that, I used to think that it was stepping towards my dream, irrespective of what others thought. But now I know that it's really the bravest thing to do is to truly step into my true self and accepting all my weird quirks and craziness and standing up for myself, especially when it comes to family. So, what does that look like when you are really stepping into your true self? What has that done for you in your business?
As I was growing up, I realized many times I had to dull my own inner voice in order to fit in. I have always been a square peg, and people have tried to fit me into the round hole where I didn't fit in, but I was just, trying my level best to fit into a round hole, which I was never going to do. I think out of all of these years of coaching and understanding myself, understanding who I am at the very core, peeling away, like you said, peeling away all of the layers, taking away all of the dust and finding the real self inside me, who is not afraid to say no when she wants to say no, and who's not afraid to take a step even when the whole world is against it. I think stepping into my true self, because earlier, if like couple of years back, I would never have been able to take steps like, starting up my own website when I had zero knowledge of running a website, or reaching out to people from outside the country when I didn't even know what conditions they're working in. People would have told me I was being crazy to stop taking orders. People would have told me that I was crazy to take online classes when everybody else is focusing on taking actual physical classes. It would have been unthinkable for me to carve my own way out of that. But if today I am known, it is for the fact that I carved my own path. It is for the fact that I didn't listen to what society was telling me, or to what people were telling me. And it today, if I am known, if I'm being featured, I am being featured for my, for example, for whipped cream gravity defying cakes, which no one had ever thought possible before. And I decided that, you know what, I am going to be the maverick who makes it happen. And I got featured recently in a paper for, in a newspaper for this very thing. And I think none of it would have been possible if I would have played small, if I would have still been the meek, obedient, good girl. Yeah. I still am a good girl, but I have my own definition of good girl now.
Yes, I love it. Yes, it's redefine what good girl means to you, right? It's not following every single rule that is written in the societal rule book. It's creating your own rules and, of course, your own values and living by them. And I think that's exactly why you are where you are today, because you've done things your way, even when it did not make sense, even when it felt like when everyone was zigging, you were zagging, and it is all paid off. And probably even if it did not pay off, sometimes it has always given you lessons which are worth, I feel, like $1 million lessons.
I think yes. I think that's very true that you brought this point up. It is very important to know. I was scared every single time I took a step for myself. I was scared, but I took the step knowing full well that I may succeed, I may not succeed. But for the first time ever, I was able to give myself permission that it is okay to have failures, that it is okay not to succeed at every single launch. It is okay not to have, like, huge money every time I float a class. It's okay, it's okay. And I think having fun with launches, having fun with my new classes, having fun, I think this is what really, brings that whole light-hearted energy into it, which is what I think has made me where, like, taken me where I am today.
Yeah, and when you're working on accepting your true self, and when you're really becoming who you are, and embracing all of your flaws, your quirks, and everything in between, what happens is that you start to value yourself for who you are rather than what you do or what outcomes you create, right? You start knowing your own worth. And I think that's when you stop making meaning of every failed launch or every class that did not make as much money as you think it should have. You stop making it mean something about you, your value, your worthiness. It's just something that happened. That does not mean anything about you. And you take the lessons from that, you tweak your strategy, and you go for it again. And that's exactly why you have fun in your business, because nothing is too serious. Nothing is, it's not a do or die situation. It's just an experiment. It's one big experiment. I think life is one big experiment anyway. I think your entire conversation has been amazing truth bombs and lessons that you have dropped on us. But if you were to share three biggest lessons that you have learned in your journey that you would like to share with anyone who is where you were a couple of years ago, wanting to play bigger, wanting to take more risk in your life, what would you tell them? What are the three biggest lessons that you have learned?
So, my number one lesson to anyone who's listening to this and being afraid to upscale yourself or step into the world of business is, first of all, you do you. You know, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to fit into a common stereotype in order to have a business. You can absolutely be yourself, trust yourself, and take one step at a time. Take it one step at a time. So there will be failures, there will be roadblocks, but you just have to know that it's okay that I had this roadblock, but I'm just going to put my next foot in front of my last foot. You know, I'm just going to keep taking the next step. I'm just going to keep moving forward. It sometimes you will be moving forward, you may be running forward, and there will be times when you'll be absolutely crawling on all fours forward. But as long as you're moving in the right direction, it is fine. You can walk, run, whatever. You just have to keep going ahead. The second thing I would like to say is you have to keep reinventing yourself, but make it as a fun challenge rather than it being like, a task that you have to do. Keep having fun in whatever it is you do. Keep looking for ways to be new and fresh, not just for your audience but for yourself, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and if you never experiment, if you never venture out, your inner child is not going to be happy. You're not going to be having fun in your business if you're constantly, and there will come a point when what used to be fun earlier starts to get boring, starts to get tedious. So I think it's very important that you have fun, you try new things. And it's kind of like, if you are into adventure sports, it's kind of like bungee jumping. It feels scary at first, but once you have taken the jump, it feels absolutely exhilarating and exciting. And the last thing I would say is that understand your audience. And the best way to understand your audience, I have learned this from you, Swapna, is to understand where you were a couple of years ago. That's where your audience is now. And once you have understood your audience, I think it will just show up in the way you speak, it will show up in the way you market yourself, it will bring out the fire in you. And I think more than anything, more than your content of your course, more than the fees, more than anything else, I think when you speak to the heart of your audience, I think that connects you best with your audience than anything else. I think these are the three things that I have learned over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I love them all, but I especially love the last one because you're in an industry where it's about visuals, it's about how the cake looks. That's what most people focus on, but in your case, in your marketing, you have focused on stories, you have focused on emotions and feelings and understanding your clients problems more than just making your pretty cakes, and your cakes are so pretty. That's not always been the focus. You also weave in the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts that your clients are feeling into your content. And that's probably why your community feels so connected to you, because you really put your heart out there, your vulnerabilities, your fears, and everything else in your content, which I feel is possible for every industry. It does not matter whether you think I cannot be creating that kind of content. No, you always can. You could literally be selling pipes, plastic pipes, and you could make that emotional. You could make that something that people love to read about and learn about. So, Gauri, what's the next direction for you as you scale your business? I know some of it already, but what's the next step for you? Where are you heading towards now?
So one of the biggest steps that I have been contemplating for quite a few years and actually never got around to doing it was having my own YouTube channel. And right now, Swapna, you and I are working on this next step of me working through my fears of being seen and working through my fears of being trolled when I'm finally seen. So I think this is one really big step for me. I like, I have done courses, I have come online before, I have done live, but to be consistently seen and to an audience which is as huge as the YouTube videos watchers, I mean the YouTube audience, it's scary, but I think that is the next exciting step for me. And yes, definitely I have researched during the pandemic. I, out of sheer necessity, I managed to research and develop a product for cake artists, which will help to make.
I would like to interrupt you here and correct you. You have invented. Please don't say that you have, you're minimizing what you have done, because I keep reminding you how amazing this is and how absolutely exciting that you have literally invented a
I
product.
have, I have. So I have invented a product which makes it a lot easier for bakers to make figurines or cake toppers with, or even to drape their cakes with. And yeah, I'm in the process of taking it higher, developing the product, making it reach shelves rather than selling it from as a direct business to customer. I want it to be selling it from business to business, and from then there forward to the customer. So yeah, that is the next step. Taking Modex forward, having a kind of a small manufacturing unit at the moment, but then having a bigger manufacturing unit and a far wider reach eventually.
Yeah, bigger, dream bigger, right? I said that's your motto. Let's keep dreaming bigger. And also having more rest and more fun and more play as you're doing all of these things. Amazing. Thank you so much, Gauri. I loved that this was our first podcast with a guest, and it was you. And the conversation has just been so amazing and so inspiring for me, as I was, even though I have had like a front seat to your growth, I still feel inspired every single time I hear you. And I think, I get this insight into how you work through your fears, because that is what is possible for anyone who makes a decision that I'm doing this. Your brain will always throw drama at you. It will always tell you that this is not possible. It's going to be too much. If it actually works, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And we can work through it all. Everything is figure outable, but you have to take that leap. So thank you so much, Gauri. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I will see you soon in our session.
Thank you so much, Swapna, for having me. It was fun. It was really good speaking to you again, even though you and I both know that we will be constantly working with each other. But yes, if whatever has happened in my journey, or if my journey is able to inspire even a couple of women out there, I think I have done my job. I think I've done my bit. So thank you for having me. It was great fun being here.
Yes, and all of your social media links and details where people can find more about you, because you also have a personal coaching page apart from your cake business. We'll put those links as well, so people can get you and connect with you everywhere that you are. That's the episode for today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am thrilled to have you as part of the Brave marketing community. Because this podcast is still brand new, it would mean so much to me if you could leave a 5-star review, as that will make it easy for other brave hearts to find this podcast and grow our community of rule breakers. Until next time, have a brave week ahead.